Star Wars horror project. If that happened, it was like I was in terms of, let's say, my past work, I was made for that gig. Like to be able
Yes.
to mash those two worlds together would be awesome. So if that happens, and if that's a legit thing, then that would be my dream project.
Welcome to Bonfire Conversations. I'm your host, Tammy Trezani-Kufar, and today I'm joined by Brandon Roberts, the brilliant composer behind Andor Season 2, one of the most critically acclaimed chapters in Star Wars history. In this episode, Brandon talks about how he came on board to score Season 2 of Andor, his collaboration with Tony Gilroy, and what it meant to continue the musical legacy shaped by John Williams and Nicholas Britell. Brandon is also a long-time collaborator of the legendary composer Marco Beltrami. We dive into their creative partnership, his work on Thanksgiving with Eli Roth, and much more. Before we begin, please consider subscribing to Bonfire Conversations on YouTube and all the major podcast platforms. Thank you so much. This is my conversation with Brandon Roberts.
Congratulations on the second season of Andor, which I believe holds the highest review score of any Star Wars project ever. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's a bit mind-blowing.
Yeah, does that put a pressure on you?
No, my job's done.
No.
So my job's done on it. So the pressure it's just enjoyment at this point.
Yeah, awesome. So let's talk about it. I'm curious about the origin of the project for you. The first season was composed by Nicholas Britell, and now you're carrying the torch. So how did the project come about to you?
So because of scheduling issues and everything, Nicholas Britell he did some work on Season 2, and then he had to depart, and so they needed somebody rather quickly, obviously. And the music editor, John Finkley, who had worked on Season 1 and Season 2, and works with Nicholas Britell a lot, he and I had worked together way back when on World War Z, and had just been friends ever since. And so I get this text from him saying, "Are you available for the next 10 months? I can't tell you anything. Bye." And so I said, "Sure. I mean, I have some things to juggle around, but yeah, sure." And then slowly it got revealed what it was, and I had a heart attack. And then and I was like, "Yeah, of course I'm in." And I met with Tony Gilroy, and the rest was history. And then it was like winning the lottery.
Yeah. So what's fascinating is that before you, for Star Wars was John Williams and then Nicholas Britell. So how challenging, or maybe even how much of a blessing was that for you?
Yeah, I think I would assume, I don't want to speak for everybody, but I would assume that most composers that work on anything Star Wars related are somewhere in the back of their mind always thinking of John Williams. And I think of him as this deity, right? That is, and his music is, in my opinion, untouchable. Like I think he's the best that's ever lived. So I think you'll always have that in your mind as a composer, and especially his Star Wars music in particular, obviously. And I'm a huge fan of Nicholas Britell's work as well, and think he's unbelievable. And then going in to Rogue One, right? Like Andor has to segue into Rogue One, and so I'm a huge fan of Michael Giacchino's music. So I would say I was very aware of my situation and just wanted to try to do justice to not just the project, but also kind of my role sandwiched in between all these amazing composers. And so at a certain point, you just say, okay, I got to do the work and put the fear aside. And that's kind of what I tried to do. But yeah, it was an honor. It's an honor to even be in the conversation with all of those, those guys.
Wow. Yeah. So, when you were just like brainstorming about this project, so what was on your mind about, like, all right, I'm gonna bring this thing to the musical world of Star Wars which hasn't been there before. So did you have anything like that in your mind before starting the project?
Yeah. Okay. So I had the great benefit, which does not happen a lot, to see all 12 episodes before I started.
Wow.
And a lot of times in television, there's no time, right? So that you might be composing on episode 1 and 2 while they're still editing episodes later in the season. So you have no idea what's happening or what's going to happen. But in this case, I knew what was going to happen. And then Tony Gilroy, the show creator, he is also extremely musical. Like, he's a musician, legit musician. Yeah. And so there was a lot of discussion between him, me, John Finkley, in terms of what stylistically we could do and what some of these new worlds would need. So one of the first things that Tony Gilroy said is, hey, we want to retain some of the palette and some of the thematic material from season 1, but we need you writing new themes and new concepts for new worlds and for new characters and for existing characters as the story progresses, to bring out all of this epic journey they're all going on. So he tasked me with first write a new theme for Yavin, which was awesome. I mean, that's like a childhood dream come true. And then one of the next tasks was we needed a theme for Mina Rao, which is the kind of the planet that's all kind of wheat. And so there's discussion about what are these planets, what is the feel you should have, right? So for Mina Rao, it's very earthy, and I went very Americana with the vibe. And then for Yavin, it's something that had to hypothetically be able to exist in A New Hope, right? The musical palette. So there's almost no synthesizers in it. There's like no electronics, because it had to hypothetically be able to be lifted and placed into A New Hope if from a orchestral standpoint. But I would say there was many discussions about, approach and what certain instruments could work for certain worlds and certain characters. So.
Wow. Great. So, Tony Gilroy, first meeting with him, how was your experience? And how did you, how aware were you with his work before meeting him for the first time?
Yeah. So I'm very, very well aware of his work. And so I was a little intimidated meeting him. And I had watched all of season 12 the night before, the 48 hours before meeting him, to decide like, hey, you want to do the project and etc. So when I got on that Zoom with him, he must have seen in my face I was probably pale as could be, and he's like, it's going to be okay. So he was a very good calming force, but I think the clarity of his vision, and not just the story, but also the needs of the music, really helped drive the ship and make my transition in a lot smoother than it could have been. And he said one thing that landed very hard during that meeting. He said, I've been in situations many times in my career where I've had to come in mid-project on something, either as a script doctor or to help out on something, and everybody else is this well-oiled machine. And he's like, you're going to be great. It's going to be fine. We all want you to succeed, and we're all here to help. And that really calmed everything. And then I was like, great. All right, then let's do this. And then we never really looked back. We just jumped in and did the work.
And how much time did you have for this?
I would say, I think by the time I started, and let's say when I started, I had a couple of weeks to kind of generate. I was making a lot of sounds and creating a lot of new things that need to be used. I would say probably 8 to 9 months. But a lot of that also includes, prepping for the recording sessions, the mixing, and all of that kind of stuff. So, but somebody said it best. They said, you really need to think of this season as 4 feature films. And I think it's 100% true. Not just in terms of like the 3-episode blocks. Each one is almost like a feature film in terms of length. But also in terms of just scope and production. It's so mammoth that it really is like 4 feature films all put together.
Yeah, considering it's like 4 feature films done back to back, are you kind of like exhausted, or are you looking for another Star Wars opportunity?
Yeah, I am available for any Star Wars opportunity. If anyone needs to know, no, I would take it in
Outside
a
of
heartbeat.
Andor, of course.
Yeah, no, I would take it in a heartbeat. I would say when we finished, I definitely needed a week to recharge. And what happens, I think, to most composers and maybe most people, that after about a week, you go, I wonder if I'm ever going to work again. And so you start going into panic mode. So you're like, I got to get some work. But no, I had some recharge time, which was great, and kind of time to reflect on the whole thing, because you're just moving, right, for 9 months. But reflecting back on it, and now seeing it all finally air, and a lot of the stuff I'm seeing for the first time, like the final VFX and stuff, it's just so great to see it all come together, and what everyone contributed is just mind-boggling.
Fascinating. Yeah, this is huge. This is amazing. So many of your past works have been collaborations with the great Marco Beltrami. So tell me about meeting him, and what was working with him has meant to you.
Oh, okay. So that's a real simple question. I would do anything for that man. I mean, he is the kindest.
I love him. Yeah.
As a person, he's one of the kindest, most generous people I've ever known, and we're legit friends. I mean, he's stayed up at my parents' house, and we've gone surfing together, all this stuff. So we're good friends on one front, but then from the professional standpoint, I idolize his music. Like I'm so blown away by the stuff he's done, and then that we do together. There's very few people I hold in that regard as him. And so whenever he wants to do something together, I'm like, the answer is yes, before knowing anything. And I've just been very fortunate to be able to work with him and Buck Sanders, who he works with a lot. And those guys I cannot say enough good stuff about both of them.
Yeah. Looking at, your IMDb page, a lot of amazing movies you collaborated with him, and I love them. And I'm a huge horror fan, so and I have to ask you, how much of a horror fan are you, considering your amazing portfolio in that genre?
Well, I will answer that question right now. Actually, last week I finally got to see Smile 2. No, I'm a huge horror fan. I will be honest. It has to be good horror, if that makes sense. So I think and I'm like any genre of horror, but I've had the good fortune of working with Eli Roth, and what he did on Thanksgiving was, I mean, we had a blast. It was so fun.
That was my next question, actually.
Yeah, no, I mean, he is so fun to work with. And then but then there's a lot of, like, I want to call it thriller horror hybrid, let's say. So like when Marco and I did Underwater together, that's like horror elements.
Underrated movie, by the way.
I would agree. I think the movie is amazing. I think Will Eubank, the director, is amazing. But so a lot of, I would say, going back to the question about do I like horror, I love it. I'm a huge fan of like, for example, was it The Haunting of Hill House? That series.
Mike Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan. Anything he does, I think, is amazing. Like, I love Midnight Mass. So a huge horror fan. But I'm also like some of the modern stuff that's happening. Like I love the score for Smile and Smile 2. I thought it was this stuff. I'm pretty much any genre I'm down.
Awesome. So working with, you mentioned Eli Roth. Love this man so much. And how was working with him? He's such a slasher fan, filmmaker. And Thanksgiving was amazing. It was so much fun. How did that project come together? And how did you end up meeting him and working with him on that amazing film?
Yeah. So the way I met Eli was he was doing a VR project called Trick VR Treat for Meta, and they needed a composer, and hooked the two of us up, and it just went really, really smoothly. And so coincidentally, right after that, he was going to start Thanksgiving. So he contacted me. He's like, "You down?" Yeah, of course I'm down. So, of course. What I was a bit surprised about is I don't know why, but I had a totally different idea of what Eli Roth was going to be like as a person. And he is the nicest, kindest. I'm not that I didn't think he would be, but he's the nicest, kindest. He loves film. He loves film to his core, and he loves film music to his core. And so when you have somebody like that, who's almost boyhood excitement about projects, it's intoxicating. And so it makes the whole process so fun musically. And he would come over, and I'd play him stuff, and he's like, yeah. I mean, he's literally getting excited. So someone like that, it really makes the process fun. So I'm hopefully we're doing Thanksgiving too, I hope. But it'll be so cool.
Anything with you two guys, it's gonna work out. Awesome. So Brandon, I have a segment on the podcast called Penny for Your Thoughts, where I ask some profound or maybe absurd questions to get to know you better.
Okay, so I'm ready.
Ready to kick it off. Awesome. All right. What's the best horror score ever written, in your opinion? These are hard questions, by the way.
All right. I'm going to give you a tie.
All right.
Because I cannot decide.
You can
I'm going to go
give
with
me top 3.
All right, top 3. Exorcist.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Awesome.
Okay, and just the opening alone, like the vibe, all the vibe with like Exorcist without hesitation. I'm a huge fan of The Witch, the score for The Witch.
Me too. Especially the ending of that.
Correct. And The Lighthouse. I mean, I think like
both
of those scores are amazing. And then I'm actually gonna go with Scream as well. Not just because it's Marco. I know it's whatever. But the reason I'm going with that one as well is because I think he did such a great job of bridging fun and excitement in horror, which I just think he nailed it. And obviously it's iconic, but just from taking away the hype, I think what he did was so cool in kind of mashing together something that isn't done a lot in horror, which is this kind of fun excitement, but with incredibly dissonant, nasty music. So those are my top 3 I can think of right now. But who knows? You might get a late night text. I'm like, wait, I forgot this one. So,
yeah. No,
next question.
That was great. All right. In a parallel universe, you get to score one Star Wars project other than Andor. Which one would it be?
Okay. I have heard rumors online. I don't know if this is true. I've heard rumors online of a Star Wars horror project. If that is happening,
you're the best.
So, yeah, if that happened, it was like I was in terms of, let's say, my past work, I was made for that gig. Like to be able to mash those two worlds together would be awesome. So if that happens, and if that's a legit thing, then that would be my dream project.
That's amazing. Yeah, but let's expand it. What about other Star Wars projects which are already out?
Oh, okay. Well, in terms of just...
You're going to fire the composer.
Yeah, let's say they fired John Williams off of Empire Strikes Back. Let's say they said, yeah, man, I'm sorry, this isn't working. Yeah, I would take Empire Strikes Back in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. I mean, it would pale in comparison to anything that John Williams did, but man, that would be fun to score that.
Yeah. All right. Next one. Do you play video games?
No. The only thing I play is online chess But occasionally I go over to a friend's house and we used to play like Quake and stuff like that. So that was fun.
Right.
But now I'm just not a video game guy. I just don't have time. I'm too busy writing music.
Yeah. About making music for video games.
Yeah, I have worked
on a lot of Star Wars projects. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'd be totally down. And I have worked on a couple of video games in a couple of capacities. I worked with Christopher Leonard's on a game he did called Starhawk. That was a blast. I mean, they're so fun. And what's really cool is the people involved love music, right? And they just love music. They love film music. So they're always great projects to work on.
Yeah. I'm actually a video game composer myself, so yeah.
Oh, nice.
I was curious about that. Yeah. All right. So, next one. If your life had a theme song that played every time you walked into a room, what would it be?
Have you ever seen Once Upon a Time in the West?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so I would argue it would be
Ennio Morricone.
Ennio Morricone's big, like the big theme for when it pans out and you see the railroad and everything.
Wow! Oh my God!
And not from mainly just because I love how beautiful the writing is and how heartfelt and it's also sad, but it's also introspective, but it's also epic. So I think that moment it just encompasses everything I love about music and especially film music. So I would take that in a heartbeat. And then I'd also take the Battle of Hoth. I mean, come on, have John Williams' Battle of Hoth playing in a room and you're going to be cool no matter what.
Wow.
So yeah.
Wow. That's great. All right. Moving on to the next one. All right. What kind of music do you listen to regularly just for yourself?
I listen to a lot of film scores, past and present, a lot of new guys, because I find some of the new stuff that's happening to be amazing. So a lot of film scores and all across genres. A lot of orchestral music, but not as much as I used to. I used to listen to like a lot of Mahler and Strauss and stuff, and then a lot of modern guys like John Corigliano and stuff. But I don't listen as much. But then I'm a huge Radiohead fan, and so I listen to a lot of Radiohead. I listen to a lot of it kind of runs the gamut. And then I love like classic rock stuff too. So I used to be a jazz musician. That was kind of my background. I was a jazz guitarist. I don't listen as much jazz anymore, but did I listen to a lot of it in my day. So, but I would say the bulk of what I listen to now is either I'm actively listening to film scores that I think are amazing, or I want to learn from, and then actively doing anything other than listening to film scores, like modern music, modern rock or pop or something, anything that's not film music, just to cleanse my brain.
Yeah.
That tends to be my habits.
Awesome. Great. All right. This is it. Brandon, congratulations again on the success of Andor. Your music is such a powerful contribution to the spirit of rebellion, and your career and work are truly exciting and inspiring. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for having me and really enjoyed it.